I'm your host, Edward Mbeche, founder and CEO of Helen Super App. Today, we have a show talking about NFT, and I have my friend Peter.
Chmiel. There's a
Peter,
lot of consonants in my name. Chmiel. It's a Polish descent. I'm sure when we got off the boat, it was like Chmiel. How to spell that? So it came out as CHM.
Yeah. So it was Chmiel. What do you say now? Instead
Chmiel.
of Chmiel?
Correct.
Okay, Chmiel. Peter Chmiel. Thanks, my friend. Welcome to the show, and I know we're gonna have a lot of good conversation today, and people get to learn a lot of stuff about you and also about NFT. Peter, let's do this. We're gonna go just to get this whole picture about Peters, right? Can we go a little bit back and just kind of introduce you, like where's Peter from, and where did you grow up?
I'm a Jersey native, grew up in Jersey City and live in Sayreville, New Jersey now. I went to high school in New York City, a place called Xavier High School, and spent freshman year at Boston College, then went to NYU. Upon graduating, I worked at a place called Andersen Consulting back before they were Accenture. And at a very young age, was very entrepreneurial, started my own business, started my own managerial and IT consulting business, left Andersen after less than a year. And, very excited what was happening doing managerial and IT consulting, worked on a lot of different businesses, and but saw how hard it is to grow a consulting business. So after we had grown it to over $1 million in revenue with, a bunch of cash cow clients and over 10 employees, was looking for some kind of software as a service business. And of all things, got into doing high frequency day trading. And so I worked with day traders on automating their trading strategies. Yeah. And that was fun until the egos of these day traders went crazy and they were difficult to deal with. So I was excited what was happening in mobile and cloud computing, and taught myself how to do mobile apps.
Yeah.
And actually the first app I ever wrote was to propose to my wife. And I still consider that the best app I've written. I've written apps for Best Dive Bars, Vegan Guide in New York City. I've worked with multiple other people on their mobile apps, both my own and others, but still consider that the best one I wrote since she said yes. And we've been married now for 11 years with 2 kids who are 6 and 7 in first and second grade.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you know, it's funny, like when you think about computer consulting long time ago, where it came into people will come fix your computer. They will do computer networking and your connecting all this computer, putting the internet and all that. That was huge business back then. So with this, I'm always fascinated with this idea of, like you mentioned, about creating an app, right? Mobile app. And because probably if you go back then, it was like nobody knew how to make them, right? So it was almost kind of people has to teach themselves. And then from that knowledge where you learned yourself, then they get translated for other people to start picking up a few stuff, like with this open source or whatever kind of things.
It was difficult back in 2009, 2010 to teach myself mobile app development. I've learned so many different programming languages over the years, but found Objective-C to be really confusing. The syntax was really strange and weird. So this is a nice lead in actually to blockchain, because I went and took a class in an iOS developer boot camp, and my instructor was someone who was really actively into Bitcoin at the time. So this was back in mid 2010, and he was actively trading it. Bitcoin was fluctuating back then between $99 and $130. So imagine back then, buying a bunch of Bitcoin at those prices.
Yeah.
I did not, but that's when I first sort of heard about Bitcoin, and started following and tracking it, and just, found it really fascinating. But it wasn't until 2015 that I really learned about blockchain. I was actually at a New York City Cloud Expo event and heard Andrew Keys, who is one of the founders of Ethereum and founder of Consensus, um, with his partner Joe Lubin, and he was speaking about blockchain and how it can, is the underlying technology that powers Bitcoin. And when I saw that, like my eyes were opened
Yeah.
to how this is going to be such a disruptive technology of removing middlemen, where you no longer need trusted parties to exchange value.
Mhm.
And I saw this is going to be the next stage of the internet. This is going to go and become the internet of value. We're used to, they talk about Web 1, where like it was read only. You could people would publish content and you'd consume it.
Yeah.
Web 2 is where we are now, where not only can you consume content, but you can post content on social media, create your own blog posts, create your own storefronts. And so we're in that read-write version of the internet.
Mhm.
But now we're creating with blockchain technology and the smart contracts that are on top of it, and with NFTs, this concept of the internet of value.
Let's do this. Let's
Go ahead.
go back a little bit before we jump into the NFT and the blockchain. I know from creating this trading software and to becoming a product manager or product officer, how did you transition into that? And what is maybe for into explaining almost like a third grade student, maybe like probably they are smarter than me. So like, can you explain into like, how did you end up in product management and what is product management?
Yeah. So product management is about, leading teams to develop products, whether you're managing their existing product or you're taking a product and going from 0 to 1, from idea all the way up to implementation. And, you were talking about, a good example is you were talking about how, back in the days, computer consultants used to both set up the networks and install the software. As the computer industry has grown and teams have gotten bigger, people have gotten more specialized.
Yep.
And so, a product manager is just someone who's working on designing, developing, launching a product, working closely with customers and understanding where the marketplace is, to understand, defining the roadmap and what belongs in the product and what features should be in there. And then, working with the team and the technical team to determine what's feasible, how to manage risk, and how to execute on that roadmap and get things built. And then collecting the feedback from your customers to determine, hey, what worked, what didn't, what should be in the next release, how should we adjust our roadmap going forward. So I used to do all those things before there was the term product manager, just doing consulting work. But I wasn't building products for consumers and for the world. I was building them for an internal customer. So I was developing software for financial service companies and warehouses and logistics companies that were custom systems just for them. So my experience has always been, working very closely with customers, understanding what their business needs are. How do I align then the technology needs with that? And, it's all about people, processes, and systems. You need all three to really have successful, operational, impact and, successful software projects.
Yeah. So like looking at your like your profile and your experience, where you go from being a consultant for a company, then you started your own company, then you went back into working for other people, up to now you're the founder and CEO of Go NFT Yourself, right?
Correct.
So what it was it like a part of the, like, while you're working for this other company, because you have worked for like some really good companies, like even like Verizon Wireless, right?
Yeah. So
Mhm.
for example, on Verizon, I was a product manager for something called NumberShare. When they first launched the first cellular connected Apple Watch on the Verizon network, I was responsible for, I was the product manager responsible for NumberShare and getting this hooked up so that your phone could pair to your Apple Watch, and all the billing and all the support and all the returns and all that stuff, worked within the Verizon system. So it was a huge project with, hundreds of people involved in launching something of that size, as well as all the marketing and then customer feedback and figuring out pricing and tracking results. And it was phenomenally successful. It actually exceeded their expectations. We were really curious how many people would actually buy the watch with the cellular plan versus would buy it without a cellular plan. And
Yeah.
like the retention was great. People loved it.
Like I'm listening to you, like the way you're talking about like how to communicate, like with the watch that communicate, which is like so with me being a founder of handling Superb, I always like when I talk to investor and they're like, how are you gonna be able to find market fit? Why do people will use your company? And I'm like, there are so much. America is so consumer driven, right? Like I never understood the concept of someone having a watch that can answer a call or looking at an email or anything. All you have to do is like your phone is in the back of your pocket, right? All you had is 2 seconds. You can be like, that's it. Big screen. You can, but for people, we are so consumer driven. It's like, I have a watch. I can read my email on the watch. Be like, your phone is in the back of your pocket. Like 2 seconds. Take it. So I always find it funny when it comes to like whenever as a product officer, when you're putting something out there and people ask you how will people accept it or whatever. So really it's about finding a way to kind of it's like a value proposition, I would say maybe. And people are just be like, they have this fear of missing out almost, right? Kind of like they will try anything.
Now, obviously, it's a lot different when someone like Apple or Samsung is launching a product on, the Verizon network. It's a little different than when you and me, go say, hey, we're going to launch our own product. Or when I put, an app in the App Store, 10 years ago. You have to really sell, market, and promote, your product. And that's a big part of the strategy. Yeah. And figuring out that product market fit, figuring out what, how you're packaging it, how you're pricing it, so that's what you're selling. Yeah. And then, how are you selling it? What channels? Is it going to be social media? Is it going to be paid advertising? Is it going to be partners? Figuring out all that is a big part of the marketing strategy. And then there's the execution. What are we going to actually do? Let's create the advertisements. Let's create the social media posts. Let's do A/B testing and figure out which ones are driving the most leads, or let's have a contest or promotion and go ahead and execute that. So the marketing is huge. And this ties back nicely to NFTs also, because the technology is one thing, but it's really about, how do you market and brand and partner with the right people. I think is so key to successful NFT projects. Okay. I'd say it's 80-90% marketing and 10-20% technology.
So yeah, like you're saying, for big companies, because they already have the fan base or the customer base, so it's kind of easy for them to introduce new thing. So let's talk about this. Go NFT Yourself. What prompted you to start the company, and what is Go NFT Yourself?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I've been following Bitcoin since 2010 and blockchain in 2015.
Which is very catchy too. I was thinking before you go, I was thinking, go NFT yourself. I'm really like, go F yourself. But it's like, it's catchy.
That's meant to be sort of the play on words. And I'll tell you the background story behind that. Mm-hmm. So I've been very interested in what's going on in the blockchain space. I had worked for another blockchain startup working on a decentralized storage solution called Moybit. And someone had approached me, who I knew from like a mobile meetup group I was part of. And he's saying, hey, let's sort of do something and we'll see what we can launch in the blockchain space. And so we started doing these like weekly meetings on Mondays. I started having some other people join me, and suddenly the group grew. We grew from like 2 people to like 5 people to like 10 people. and we were kicking around different ideas. And it was right around the time NBA Top Shot came out.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with NBA Top Shot, they're a marketplace for selling moments, what they call moments, of these NBA highlights. So LeBron James dunking on someone, and Kevin Durant hitting this amazing 3-pointer. And they come in different levels of rarity, where some are very rare moments. There's one of 100, some are one of 5,000, some are one of 50,000. And you buy a pack of like trading cards, like back in the day when you buy baseball cards, and then you open up your moment and you get like 4 or 5 cards of, there's a certain percentage, you get one that's super rare, and then people can buy, collect, and trade these things. And I'm like, this is amazing. They created, and what impressed me most was the user experience. Like, they weren't talking technology lingo. They weren't talking about crypto and blockchain and cryptography and all the technical stuff. They're just like, hey, you're buying these cool moments. You sign up, you get a wallet, and then you can buy these NFTs with a credit card, these collectibles with a credit card. And I'm like, that's the user experience I want to be able to create for any brand, any artist, to go out and sell NFTs to their entire fan base. So whether you have, if you've ever heard, was it Chris Dixon, the VC, has a famous article or post called, 1,000 True Fans. So it's taking that 1,000 True Fans concept and applying it to NFTs now as a way for, anyone who has 1,000+ true fans to monetize that fan base. So instead of things like streaming, where they've got to have 1 million streams and make like a penny a stream to make a living, now by offering NFTs and higher priced items, people can now make a living and generate a fair amount of revenue by selling unique digital collectibles and unique experiences to their fan base.
Okay. So with this digital ownership, so meaning you have to almost kind of have, like, I guess this is a blockchain, right? So now you have login is almost like your banking information. Login, like you say, hey, this is where I store my NFT, right? Is this like more, because I'm trying to in my head, I'm going back into probably, if you think, like, in my head, I keep translating this. Is like, how people collect stamps or they collect cards, like baseball cards, right? So it's similar kind of idea, right? So
absolutely.
Yeah. So with digital, so meaning you gotta have a login for something or whatever. And so it just parked there. Is it open to the public where everybody can see, like, hey, Peter on this NFT or this, like, can you maybe go a little bit?
It's semi-anonymous. Like when you set up a wallet and that NFT gets minted and put into that wallet, it's just this, 64-bit hexadecimal code. And so that's an anonymous wallet. Now, there are some platforms that when you sign up, they might keep some profile information about you that then is associated with that wallet. So that platform might know who you are when you sign up. But in terms of what's stored on the blockchain, it's really anonymous information. It's just, this asset, whether it's a Ethereum, Bitcoin, or a specific NFT is sitting in this wallet. And so that also creates a ton of transparency, because as something transfers ownership from one person to the next, you can track that purchase history, and you could see something move from one person to the next. So I think there's value in that transparency. So
let's say I buy an NFT, LeBron and NFT, maybe for, let's say, $1,000, right? And I hang on to it 10 years from now. How does the value, either value go up, or is it more just like, yeah, I have this, if I ever to decide to sell 10 years from now, how do you make money from this NFT?
So it's like any other marketplace.
Okay.
It's like any other market or community. Whether you're a collector of baseball cards, rare stamps, coins, Civil War chess sets, you know, like it's the same with any, physical item. And it's no different than, hey, I buy a house. Is it going to be worth more in 10 years than it is now? Well, it sort of depends on the house, the condition it's in, what neighborhood it's in, the mortgage rates,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of factors that impact the price of, any asset. But what I really love about NFTs is it allows you to tokenize anything of value. Now, right now, it's mostly collectibles, art, and gaming are the primary things. But being able to tokenize anything of value and make it easily tradable creates a more open and democratized economy where it isn't just the insiders or the rich that have and the wealthy who have access to different assets. Like if you want to buy a piece of real estate in New York City, how many people have millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars to buy a piece of commercial real estate? Now you could buy a REIT or something like that, and there are some instruments for buying different pieces of real estate. But if you wanted to buy like a very specific one, like if you can now assign that to an NFT and fractionalize that physical item, whether it's a Gucci bag, a Salvador Dali painting, a piece of New York commercial real estate, a classic car, imagine being able to have ownership in that physical item and have it be openly and transparently tradable in a market where supply and demand will set the price for that NFT. I mean, I think that's super exciting, and it's going to change the way, it's going to unlock a tremendous amount of value by making it easier for more people to transact. Right now, if you want to transact and buy a piece of real estate or invest into, a hedge fund or invest into a startup, there's a lot of legal costs that go into that. And there's a lot of compliance that, needs to be managed and checked. And because of those transaction costs, it's just not feasible to go and get 10,000 people to put up a couple $100 to go buy a piece of real estate. Instead, maybe you find 5 to 10 people to go buy that $50 million piece of real estate if they're going to group together and form an LP or an LLC or something. But by putting this on, writing smart contracts that could, enforce compliance and being able to create marketplaces that are transparent, you can now open up, a lot of existing asset classes and create some brand new ones that maybe never existed before. Imagine the next time you want to, a sports franchise wants to build a new stadium. Imagine instead of taking out bonds and the city having to issue $1 billion worth of bonds, imagine if they could go directly to the fans and say, hey, buy ownership in this seat at Yankee Stadium. And that helps fund the development of the next stadium. And in return, they get a fraction of the, of the sales from that particular seat, plus maybe a whole bunch of other perks. Maybe they get discount tickets at some playoff games or something.
Yeah.
Although if I know the Yankees, they'll probably they'll charge you double.
Yeah. So question also, it goes into bandwagon, right? So like every time there's a new technology, a lot of people kind of flock into the technology, right? So now you have NFT, so many NFT, right? How do you end up, because all this, it can be just a bunch of nothing, right? People, they're just putting their own design or whatever the NFT and then push it to the market, to the blockchain. But in reality, if you're looking at things that they're going to add value, how do you tell the difference from picking the right NFT has something because like right now, so like you're talking about, like, okay, if you buy an NFT with LeBron James, you know the value might go up because of whatever might happen to LeBron. He'd be like, oh, now he bought a basketball team, or he's the owner of this. Now you're like, oh, the value is going up because of whatever is trending about him. What is it if like some random Joe somewhere, I'd be like, hey, I created an NFT. Like, but what is this NFT backed by? Like, there's no
Yeah,
value behind it. How?
that's a great question. So I think what's happened is obviously there was this huge craze and interest. There was a lot of crypto millionaires sitting out there with hundreds of thousands of Ethereum, and so I think a lot of this, what we've seen over the last back in 2011 or 2021 rather, was what was a lot of hype and a lot of just enthusiasm for the marketplace, and I think it was driven by mostly speculation, and speculation is good. Some people make a lot of money, some people lose a lot of money. That's the way markets work, and I think that's a good thing. But where I think and I never tried to get into that game and try to create like my own like 10,000 go NFT yourself apes or something like that. I'll leave that to the other people who were very successful at creating some amazing brands that have a huge community and still have very high floor prices of these things cost $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 plus to buy some of these high priced blue chip NFTs. And so incredible that they took these things from zero to billion-dollar valuations for their brands, overnight. So that's incredible. But I think that's really hard to do for the average person. How many people are really going to go from zero to NFTs that are selling for $100,000, $200,000 plus? I think the key is to focus on NFTs that come with real value, real utility. And that can vary from person to person. If you're buying an NFT, again, we said it could be, anything of value. So if I'm buying an NFT that's tied to a music group that I really like, and in return, I'm going to get, a vinyl record or access to the album before everyone else does, through streaming, or I get some backstage tickets or passes when they're in town, I'm getting some real world value with it. And it's not just about me buying this NFT and then hoping to flip it. Now, there could be times in the future, and there's laws around this, whether this is a security or not. So this is not legal advice. But, the same way I talked about like the Yankees, someone going and a sports team going to raise money for their next, stadium. Imagine a, artist saying, hey, instead of going to the record company to produce my next album, I'm going to go to my fans, go raise $200,000 worth of money for production and marketing of my next album. Would you like a third of the royalties on this album? And so now it becomes, a way to support them, the musician that you're into, and a way to also generate some cash flow and have an asset that could actually generate cash flow, or that you could resell if those album sales are really fantastic, and stuff. So I think it creates sort of this mix of fandom plus investment, and so it sort of feeds on sort of all different types of, I think, emotions we have as humans to want to own something, to collect something, to support, artists and causes and people we care about, but at the same time have some upside to buy some NFTs. We're working right now, for example, with a company that covers high school sports in New Jersey called Jersey Sports Zone. And we're working on a site where they're going to offer name, image, and likeness deals to these high school athletes and sell their highlights as NFTs. Now, some of those athletes will go on to college. Maybe 1 out of 10,000 will go into the pros. So imagine having like a LeBron James or Derek Jeter NFT back from their high school days. That would probably be worth something. But for those 99 out of 100 that aren't going to go to college or turn pro, this is still a nice way for them to commemorate their high school, sports highlight, maybe raise a little bit of money towards their college fund. So I think it could be a win-win for everyone, and it's a sort of a cool thing for their friends and family to say, hey, check it out, I own this NFT of my son dunking on this guy.
Yeah. So it's almost I don't want to say it's like a gamble, because now you see it like there's a lot of people who are either popular online for either like let's say take example, like I saw some Instagram model, right? I don't know if you're familiar with Instagram model. So someone put it, they post half naked picture, they get a bunch of likes, and like not so they look like a model in there in the Instagram, but really they are not showing like other like let's say abilities to be like, I can sing or I can do whatever. So that, and I feel like after a few years, either they're getting older and the likes start dropping down, or social media or whatever. So it's like for them to create an NFT, it's still a gamble. You're right, because anything maybe can change also, right? For them, something can happen bigger, be like, now they're this much bigger, and I have an NFT for them. So the value, depending on the market, almost kind of whatever happened with the value kind of thing.
Yeah, and it depends on how many super fans they have. Let's say they've got 100,000 followers, and 1,000 of them are really true super fans of that Instagram model. Maybe they'd be willing to buy a collectors only NFT from that model, and that would be a great source of income for her, beside her or him, besides the money they make if they are doing any professional modeling. So I think it opens up tons of opportunities. But again, one thing I tell everyone, I've had so many people come up to me and say, I'm going to get into NFTs, and it's a great way for me to make money. And I'm like, okay, great. How big is your fan base? And they're like, I don't have one yet. Yeah. But the NFTs will create my fan base. I'm like, no, the NFTs will not create your fan base. Yeah. Just saying, hey, it's me plus some NFTs that I'm going to list for $500,000 is like, you're not going to sell those NFTs, or the odds of you selling them are very low. Now, if you create if you find the right partners and you've got some really cool NFT, and you could, partner with the right brand or the right one, then yes, you guys together can maybe create something that's new and exciting. But it's really hard, I think, to go from zero to be like, expect you're going to be the next Bored Ape Yacht Club just because you came out with Frosty Ferrets or something.
Let's do this. I know we're about to run out of time too. So can we talk a little bit when someone come to your company? So they come to Go NFT Yourself. What is the process? Like, do you do the whole, like, just walk us through, like, what is the process to kind of...
So a little bit about us. So what we're doing is we've created that user experience that people have for like NBA Top Shot, and allow any brand or artist to sell NFTs to their entire audience. Not just the few that own and understand crypto, because our user experience is you sign up, you get a wallet, you buy the NFTs with a credit card, it gets put in your wallet. But we're also interoperable. You can then take that NFT and go sell it on another marketplace. You can connect that same wallet. It's what's called a non-custodial wallet. So we don't have your private keys. You have your own private keys. You can connect to another wallet. And so what we've done is we've worked with we've sort of cast a wide net and worked with a wide series of some artists, some charities, a political organization. I was mentioning Jersey Sports Zone doing sports. And we're looking to launch our own site for music NFTs soon. And so the way the process works is, first we sit down and decide, like, what are your goals? What are you trying to get out of this? Are you trying to generate revenue? Are you trying to, engage your existing community more? Are you trying to get new fans and audience, a younger audience, or, more crypto savvy audience? Like, what are your goals and objectives? So let's start with that. Then we'll sit and say, well, what are your ideas around NFTs? And we'll help them figure out what intellectual property or assets they have that would make for a good NFT and what benefits would come with it. So for example, when we worked with a political organization, we said, okay, let's create membership cards for your NFTs. So instead of someone just, hey, I'm going to write a check to this political organization, say, well, instead of just writing a check, go buy this NFT and you'll get a platinum level membership or gold level membership. And with that is going to come access to their conventions, VIP seats, sitting with the politicians at the fundraising events. Access to the, tickets to the golf outing, to the yearly golf outing, stuff like that. So they're getting some real world experiences, with the NFT.
Invitation to the White House.
Yes, right. Hey, when I get elected to the White House, you can be there at my inaugural address, sitting next to Bernie Sanders or something. That's awesome. So like provide some real world perks. So we sit there and we help them figure out like what do they really need, or what could be sold as NFTs, and then work with them on like what's the pricing and what's the scarcity that they should have. So based on how big their audience is, and then the biggest part, like I said, is the marketing. And what we do is work with them on like what's your marketing strategy. So based on the number of followers you have, based on how big your email list is, based on how you've done with sales of other merchandise or other products, we'll come up with a marketing strategy that very often, like I said, if it's a smaller company, we often say, hey, how can we partner with someone else that has a bigger fan base or bigger following we could tap into? So for example, we're working with an artist that does this amazing photography of safaris and African culture out in Uganda. And he's done a lot of work with the Ngamba Island Chimp Sanctuary, which is part of the Jane Goodall Institute. And so we said, partner with them. They can help promote the NFTs, and we'll have a portion of the proceeds go towards Ngamba Island to help support the chimpanzees. So we helped them come up with that as a strategy of like who they could partner with to tap into a broader audience, as well as like, oh, let's do a contest. So like, hey, whoever buys the first 200 NFTs gets a chance to win a digital camera and master photography class with Chris. So, so it's just, other ways you can sort of entice and promote the NFTs. But at the end of the day, it's pretty much up to them to execute on it, unless we do work with some digital agencies who can help. And if they do have the money and the budget, we can provide, resources who will do your social media marketing for you, create the ad campaigns, execute on those, etc. But it's a lot of work. It's not let me just send out one email, 2 tweets, and I'm going to sell $1 million worth of NFTs. It really doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Man, listen, I know there's a lot of information that's here. So, and then we kind of ran out of time. So Peter, talk to me. How can people find you and maybe with your company?
Yeah. So you can go to gonftyourself.com and learn about us. And you can, reach out to me through the contact us there. Also feel free to look for us on social media, on LinkedIn and Twitter. Just look up Go NFT Yourself and feel free to follow us or direct message me directly on LinkedIn if you have any questions. Always looking to help and work with, up and coming and established brands and artists who are interested in NFTs. I think it's a great way for, anyone to unlock the value in their intellectual property and generate a new revenue stream.
That's awesome. So because you're able also to even just kind of, you do even the consulting also to just kind of let them know, like, okay, kind of give them almost like a strategy how to go up to the market and everything. That's awesome.
That's what's needed now. Eventually, we want to get our platform to the point where it's literally going to be like, like Squarespace, except instead of setting up your own website, you're setting up your own NFT storefront. But we feel most people aren't there right now. Like in 2005, it made sense for people once they understood what a website is to set one up for themselves. But if it was 1995 and I gave you Squarespace, people would be like, what do I do with this thing? I don't know how this works.
Yeah,
So it requires that education and that hand holding and really providing that white glove service to customers. But eventually we do want to get this platform to a point where people can self-serve, set up their own stores, just like setting up your own Etsy or Shopify store, except with NFTs.
Peter Chmiel. I messed up the name. Chmiel. And CEO and founders of Go NFT Yourself. It's so easy to find that name. It's just Go NFT Yourself. And it should pop up to be able to reach out to him, kind of get some information about an NFT. This is exciting time. So, and you don't want to be always like the last person to find out about this. So this is time to learn about NFT. And yeah, this is awesome. Peter, thank you so much for adding value to the headliners. I really appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you, Edward. I really appreciate it. And thanks to the audience for tuning in today. Wish everyone the best.
Thank you so much. Just give me